Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the counselor's office. We are live. That's right. We're doing something different. We're doing a bunch of live recordings. I figure why not? Usually I do this on Sunday when I'm not streaming, but we're kind of in a good mood and we're kind of having fun. So we are chilling. That's right, scholars. We have fellow scholars live for you. And today we're going to continue on the train. We're checking out a video by Legendary Drops, another content creator that I enjoy reacting and reviewing from. His video today is "It's Like the Gaming Industry Wants to Fail." And we're going to jump in and see what this is all about.
I'm going to try to keep it together here. Just last year, Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox, stepped forward to say that increasing prices over $70 would be manipulative. Do I need to say anything more? Do not trust these people. And please stop defending them. Xbox was the last company that I would have expected to join the price hike club. Because while I will largely applaud them for getting rid of console exclusivity, I think that that's generally a good thing. And I know that there is a broader strategy to these price increases. It still doesn't make sense. Not from a player's perspective, and definitely not even from a business perspective. Outside of a couple of decent games, Xbox first-party titles just aren't good.
No.
People are not going to be lining up to spend $80 on an Xbox game right now. You might get a handful, but not nearly as many as you're going to need. And it feels like every single time they go to pick up a publisher or a studio, they find a way to ruin it in one way, shape, or form, except for Activision Blizzard King. And, well, you can't necessarily ruin what is already effectively video game Satan. So there you go.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. But you're also forgetting EA.
Have the faith of the vast majority of players that play video games today. You are the weakest of the three platform holders. You are years behind in console sales, and you're increasing prices across the board. What are you doing? I know what you're doing. You're terrified because Xbox, like all of these other companies, have built their castles on sand. And because of rising development costs, because you guys
This feels like a passionate love letter, like response to the gaming industry, because as a gamer, you're like, bro, we grew up on this. I grew up with the original Xbox. I didn't grow up with like some of the original Nintendo stuff, but obviously I had like Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. Like at this point, people expect Nintendo to be a scummy douchebag because they've always been that way. Even like with the events where they have sent cease and desist, like you can't have this tournament. No, you can't do it. What's that? You're giving money away? No, you can't do that. It's our game. You don't own that game. We own it, so you can't do what you want with a game that you purchased. You can't do that. Now you have Xbox that's like, yo, they're increasing prices. We're going to increase prices too.
Consolidated your industries overseas and now are threatened by tariffs because piracy is on the rise.
Yep.
Because indie developers are putting out breakout hits.
That is so true.
EU Commission is.
That is so true. That I think piracy has increased and it will continue to increase. And indie developers like Expedition, Obscure Expedition 33, Pow World, all these games are more indie style are getting a lot more love because they're actually for the gamers, by the gamers. And then you have just the corporate scumbags that are pushing out. They're raising prices, but the quality of games are going down. They're catch-alls. They're not actually focused on being for a specific, group. They're trying to cast a net to catch as many as many Andes as possible to make money. And it's kind of just destroying the gaming sphere.
Is now targeting microtransactions. The tide is coming in, and you're all about to be washed out. Initially through GameStop, Xbox announced price hikes across the board, increasing the price of digital games up to $80 starting next year, and increasing the price of their hardware and accessories anywhere from $20 to $30 to...
It's crazy that they're increasing stuff that's been out forever. It's not the new future stuff. It's everything current that's going to get bumped up, which is insane.
Even charging $729 for the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte console, more expensive than the PlayStation 5 Pro. Pricing yourself higher than your competition who's outselling you 3-1 is a bold strategy and not one that I was expecting. At the end of my Oblivion video, I had said, I don't trust these companies to make smart choices, and I hate being right. At first, I thought Xbox was pricing the Oblivion remaster at $50 as a direct response to Nintendo increasing their prices and dropping their Zelda remaster at $90. And honestly,
I think that was so insulting to see that. Guys, Zelda, $90.
I still think it was. Asmongold nailed it on Twitter. He said that 2025 and 2026 will be the years of remasters and remakes. Cheap to create compared to a new game, quantifiable existing audience, boost visibility for upcoming titles, Gears of War E-Day, little to no risk of controversy or boycott, literally the easiest W.
I'm okay with this. I know maybe I'm the minority, but I'm okay with remakes and remasters, especially if they're at the quality of Oblivion. I would be okay with that. If they were to take some of these games that are already good, but they need a little bit, if they were to give love, like graphics and maybe some, slight improvements or even expanding upon it, like adding some extra stuff, I would be okay with that. Like, I think of Fable Anniversary. Fable Anniversary did an amazing job of giving the original Fable series a little love. Resident Evil 4, Dead Space. These remakes were phenomenal. Mwah. I think Dead Space was just, everything about it was true to the original with some slight modifications to just added extra layers. And yes, you could argue maybe not as true for Resident Evil 4. Like, there's some things that are like questionable, like why they do this. They took out some of this content. Overall, I thought it was a better experience. I enjoyed it. And I would love to see more games, to think of like Halo coming back in that light. Being able to play Halo PC remastered and just having the changes and love that Dead Space and Resident Evil 4 got. Like, if it was at that level, or even Oblivion, mwah, I'm just telling you.
In the industry right now. Honestly, I cannot believe that this guy can find time to post industry insights while also doing home improvement.
Wait,
doing home improvement.
Took the day off to find some dead animal in it. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Asmongold. I've heard the whole like alarm clock situation. But the fact that he had a dead animal in the attic that smelled bad and ended up falling through the ceiling. Very sure I'm living in Sen's Fortress. I don't know what that is, but falling through that is some like comedy Looney Tune stuff.
Movement.
That's funny.
But honestly, he's not wrong, especially when that remaster is as transformative as Oblivion's, and especially if it's priced fairly. New releases are a minefield right now, plagued by creative missteps, content that nobody asked for, and player backlash. So returning to the past makes sense. Players want something for you. There's
a reason why Marvel Rivals is incredibly successful, because it's free to play and it's good. And that's the problem that you have, is that you have these developers making you pay for games that are not good. The quality is garbage. It's so bad. Whereas you have free to play games that there's no risk of failure. That's why those good free to play services like Fortnite and Marvel Rivals, those are very lucrative and are thriving, is because they give you a good product that's free.
Familiar, something proven. Reviving these beloved games with modern upgrades is a great way to answer that call while avoiding any backlash that's been plaguing a lot of these new IPs and modern releases. Though Oblivion censorship has raised some eyebrows. But the part that Asmon glossed over, the part that deserves a little bit more attention here, is that this isn't just a visibility boost. It's Xbox clawing back into relevance. These aren't just nostalgic remasters. These are cultural recall grenades. And with the $40 Gears of War remaster seeming...
I'm actually excited. I've only ever played a little bit of this game. The fact that it's going to be on both Game Pass and PC, I'm excited for this. Because I can actually enjoy what people have said. Like, what was supposed to compete with Halo for a while, I get to enjoy it in a new light.
Aiming at the exact same level of quality as the Oblivion one, Xbox has found a strategy that actually makes sense. Cost-effective, high-quality reminders of what the brand used to be and used to stand for.
It's like, hey, guys, this is what we used to be. We're going to give a new paint on it. Just know the future games like Starfield will never reach this quality.
These games aren't locked behind exclusivity either. They're multi-platform, meaning that Xbox gets to reintroduce itself to players they've either lost or never had. And I'll be honest, I think this is smart. But here's the problem. It completely undercuts their justification for the price hikes everywhere else. Let's be real. Xbox is the last company that should be selling $80 games.
Yep.
Their recent titles have not earned it. When I think of an $80 game, I could maybe spend that on Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Armored Core 6, games that gave me something complete, something real. I'm not thinking Halo Infinite, Avowed, or Starfield. And sure, that's subjective.
He mentioned Halo Infinite. It still hurts my soul that I want Halo to be returned to glory. Please just do a remastered. If the day they do Halo 3 remaster and bring multiplayer back, I think I will quit Destiny. I will probably quit Destiny and full-time stream Halo 3, and I will just do nothing but Halo 3 streams. Ah, baby.
But it's also about standards. Larian, Warhorse, From Software, they're not milking players through microtransactions. They're not nickel and diming people with battle passes and half-baked launches. They sell you a game. That's it. Now, Xbox, on the other hand, survives off of the back of Call of Duty microtransactions and reoccurring subscription revenue. Their games have not hit their
There's a reason why Xbox fought tooth and nail to access Call of Duty, because it is probably the biggest, outside of Game Pass, their biggest buck generation.
Platform sales are down, and now
Call of Duty is essentially infinite money machine.
With the excuse of Nintendo increasing their prices to $80, opening the floodgates, Xbox is the first in line to raise their prices across the board. Games, hardware, all of it. It doesn't feel strategic. It feels desperate. I mean, just last year, Phil Spencer said that raising prices beyond $70 could become manipulative. In his words, we went through COVID. We found more ways of getting more money per play.
I mean, they also bought Bethesda, and Howard, his explanation for Fallout 64 or whatever, 76 or whatever, was it just works. It just works.
I think that at some point you reach the peak of that. And frankly, it could go to places that are manipulative. And I'm not a big fan of that. Then Microsoft would then go on to record $94 billion in profit. They would then double their growth. Their valuation hits $3.4 trillion. And suddenly we are expected to believe that they have to increase prices because of rising development costs and economic uncertainty. Snakes in the grass slither fast. I said this in my Oblivion video, and I'm going to say it again. Xbox may be the weakest platform right now, but that's exactly what makes them the most dangerous. With Game Pass and cross-platform releases, they can undercut their competition on their competition's own platforms. But instead of using that power to offer better value, they're just hiking their prices like everyone else.
Hey, guys.
They issued a statement saying, we understand that these changes are challenging, and they were made with careful consideration given market conditions and the rising cost of development. Careful consideration. Until you realize the whole thing is just them passing the buck to the players. You know, everybody wants to pin these price hikes on the U.S. trade war, and while that might be an agitator, I'm not buying it. Xbox is behind.
I just want to say I hate that argument. But the tariffs, they've got to because of the tariffs. I think the tariffs are probably the biggest, like, you know, mask reveals, the Scooby-Doo where they reveal the villain. This whole tariff situation has just removed the mask on how many dumb fucks don't even, and I know I'm just getting very aggressive here, but that's what they are. Dumb fucks who don't know economics and how things work. These people who are willing to defend billion-dollar companies and justify their greedy actions. Like I always say it. If you're a gamer and you're not pro gamer, you're pro stupid.
In the console race, you really don't think that there isn't a stockpile of unsold hardware somewhere? That Xbox that you're buying off the shelf right now wasn't made yesterday. It was made months ago. If these tariffs were such a serious issue, they could just slow down production, stagger the releases. Hell, with the profits that they're pulling in, they could eat the costs and not even feel it, but they won't, because tariffs are just a convenient scapegoat. And even if they were rescinded tomorrow, these prices would stay the exact same. What absolutely drives me up the wall is how transparent this whole thing is. These price hikes are a direct consequence of poor planning.
I think a perfect example is COVID. The gaming industry literally boomed. Everything just skyrocketed. Like sales And yet you didn't see a single price decrease, did you? Nope. Prices didn't go down. Sales were up massively. They were fruitful, successful, but you never saw prices go down.
Planning. Rising costs wouldn't be a factor if you hadn't bet your entire hardware operation in one country. If it wasn't for tariffs, it would have been something else. Supply chain failure, political unrest, a factory fire. These are self-inflicted wounds. So why is this happening? Why are all of these companies hiking their prices, slashing jobs, and trying to gaslight us into thinking it's all for our benefit? Well, the real answer is investor pressure. That's it. Gaming has become a hotbed for investors. It's not like traditional industries. Once hardware is out of the way, it's pure margin for the most part. No factories, no trucks, no physical goods, just code. And once they got your attention, they can sell you the exact same pixels over and over again. That's what they're protecting. Not the cost of development, but the rate of return. Live service games have become the golden goose in this industry. Infinite growth, infinite spend. You don't need to sell a game anymore. You sell a lifestyle. Look at Take-Two. Their entire business is propped up by two things: GTA Online and NBA 2K's microtransaction economies. EA, the same.
Exactly. Absolutely. Grand Theft Auto is currently the most successful live service game, even like compared to Fortnite. Has been going for 15 years now? It is for the most lucrative business model out there. And they are still delaying a new game. 15 years. And they've been literally leeching off of one game for 15 years. Now, granted, a lot of their updates have been free. So it's not like it's a bad business model and that they're very anti-gamer. Like, they do free updates for the game and really crank out product, right? And that's part of why they're successful. But then you have all these other games who are cranking out live service models that are undercooked. They're cheap. They feel bad. They're not complete. Like Suicide Squad. Concord, obviously, everyone's going to point at that. So many other options that showcase what an undercooked game or game that's meant for everyone and not a specific group.
Thing. FC, formerly FIFA, Madden, Apex Legends, 3 live service ecosystems that print money daily. Activision Blizzard, the only reason that they were worth $70 billion for Microsoft was because of World of Warcraft and Call of Duty. No innovation, no creativity, just predictable revenue. And it's that predictable revenue that has completely warped the conversation around development costs. We keep hearing about how games are more expensive to make than ever, but what they won't say out loud is they are the ones who made it that way. You do not get to cry poor after making billions of dollars in revenue, hiring thousands of people across a dozen studios, scaling up to unsustainable sizes, and then acting shocked when your overhead crushes your margins. GTA 6 is the
people like. It is so sad to see developers get hired, excited for a job, to want to make good games and to want to do it, just to get fired because some greedy asshole saw the numbers skyrocket during COVID and thought, oh, this is going to be the new normal. And so everyone decided to reach for the fucking stars. Instead of playing the long game, they played I'm going to chase the current trend. I'm going to chase the margins right now. We'll think about it later. And they put all the burden of failure on the people they fired. The people who actually cared about gaming. That's the problem.
Perfect example. That game is taking longer to develop than every GTA combined. That's not because of creative ambition. It's because the machine behind it has become bloated, inefficient, and addicted to scale. That's not spending smarter. That's spending more. And they're expecting us to pay for it. What makes this all the more frustrating is that this industry is not struggling. Not even close. The last 30 years have been defined by record-breaking profits year over year over year.
Yeah, I mean, gaming, it will only get more successful. Especially mobile. Like, mobile is skyrocketed in a couple of years. Like, it's the most successful, most lucrative way of making money, which is a lot of people are starting to jump on the bandwagon, though not all of them are successful. Like Call of Duty is closing their Warzone mobile, whatever. But I suspect we'll see more mobile for the Asian communities. And I do suspect we'll see more it wouldn't surprise me if Microsoft starts jumping on the bandwagon for mobile.
Here, Xbox just had its best year ever. None of these companies are tightening their belts. Their executives aren't taking pay cuts. There's no scaled back bonuses, just mass layoffs and price hikes because they want to keep the party going at the top while cutting off everything else or just making you pay for it. And that's the thing that they don't want you guys to think about. This isn't about inflation. It's not about tariffs. It's not about rising development costs. It's about control. Xbox wants these price hikes. Ooh, they want them badly because if they can make traditional gaming so financially exhausting, $80 games, $700 consoles, $100 accessories, so they can herd their players towards services that they can control. Live service games, free to play, Game Pass, cloud gaming, controlled storefronts, closed ecosystems. The long game. They're just trying to boil the frog. These guys aren't even competing with each other anymore. It's so transparent.
Yeah.
Microsoft buys Activision for $69 billion. Sony buys Bungie for $3.6 million. These aren't random events. These are symptoms of a market consolidating so aggressively that there is no pressure to undercut each other. No official collusion, just a shared understanding that if they all raise...
Yeah, there's no competition. Competition is what provides growth, but we're growing backwards. We're going backwards. And when remasters and remakes are becoming the better games, like you're making older games and those are the new better games than your new games, we're going backwards. And that's a problem.
Prices together, the customer will have nowhere else to go. And the worst part is they're doing it like it's going to benefit the industry in some way. They blame global instability, rising costs, economic pressure, but they're just using it as a smokescreen to justify whatever their next gamble is, the next experiment. All of it, every last move is designed to shift the cost of their mistakes onto you. This isn't a strategy, it's survival. It's desperation that's dressed up in a suit and tie. And the more they raise the floor, the more players are going to start looking for the exit. Man, Xbox really loved that quote from Ubisoft. Players need to get comfortable not owning their games. They thought to themselves, that's a strategy. That's a plan we can get behind. Let's make the market so uncomfortable for players to own anything, to own games or to own hardware, that the low-income and middle-income customers are likely to take the bait and go for Game Pass or go for cloud gaming or any of these other subscription services. Because why?
I do want to say, though, as much as he's completely correct, Game Pass, if you are someone who's not like a collector, or you are someone who just burns through games, like you just burn through them, like you binge watch anime or TV shows, and you're going through these games. I mean, let alone playing like Doom, the Dark Ages, and Oblivion. If you can do that in like under a month, you've already made your money back because you played more than what you would have paid for the price of two games, right? $100, $120, $140, whatever the total cost would have been. I think it would have been like, what, $130, $110, something like whatever. The point I'm making here is that Game Pass benefits more for certain groups of people than it does others. For me personally, it does not benefit me because I'm all over the place and I would just be giving free money. Whereas if I just own the game, it's better for me because I can go at my own pace and I would have ownership of it. And then as also someone who plays on PC, I can mod the game, which is a whole different spectrum and argument. But being on PC, you can use mods to change up your gameplay and drastically change how you play. But the main point I'm trying to say is Game Pass is a great deal. And even though you don't own those games, if you are not the kind of person, especially if you're on console and you don't have you don't want to sit there having hundreds of games and you just want to play a game to play a game, it is an experience that is like the package is worth it. But it's going to be on a case by case premise. I do think for people like me, it's not that beneficial.
Why would I pay $80 when I could pay $20 a month and play all of these games rather than just get one little measly game? I mean, these services are so fair. They're so cheap. They're so effective until next year or the year after that, where because of rising development costs and economic uncertainty, the price has to go up by $10 or $15. But don't worry, Because just like Netflix, we have an option for you price-sensitive customers. Game Pass Basic with ads. PlayStation Plus Basic with ads. Ubisoft Basic with ads. Then after that, they're going to start selling you frame rates and resolution.
Which they've already experienced. We've already had developers or companies that have tried putting ads in games. Game Pass is good for the individuals, but bad for the industry as a whole. I think that's a fair argument. I think we should never allow games to be, or ads to be in games. We should actively shit on every developer for trying to put ads in games. You should not. I don't care if it's Game Pass or not. I'm already buying your service. Fuck you. At least that's how I felt.
We've seen this happen before. Like, I don't understand how people think that this isn't going to happen. I've had people push back on it. That's not what's going to happen. What?
Yeah,
stupid?
It's
you
already
you deserve to pay these prices.
Yeah, and it has already been. They've already attempted this. It's already been attempted. We have historical context of this happening.
Gaming is slowly being monetized.
I think it's already happening in sports games,
like every other industry that's out there, and it's all to attract more investors. Notice how every single year they have to break record profits. Higher and higher and higher and higher without ever trying to lower their floor. The funny thing is, this isn't like any other industry. We have options. We can go anywhere else that we want to. Hell, we're not even buying most of your games to begin with.
True.
I don't think that they understand how much trouble that they're in.
We're going backwards. We're playing old ones. We're playing emulators. We're selling, flying the high seas.
Right now.
Flying, sailing.
Because, one, I don't even think players are going to buy into this. I'm sure that there's going to be some people that are going to hop on the train of some of these bigger games that are going to come out that we know for a fact are actually good. And if it's $80, people will still pay for it. But for the most part, when I talk to other people about,
I think that's a good point. Listen, if you're talking about a good game, and I do think it's still shitty, I am more inclined to spend more money for a company that makes a good game. And if the quality is there, I'm willing to spend the more money on said game. I'm more likely, right? I'm more willing to support that game. If you're telling me like, I'd never play Baldur's Gate, but if Baldur's Gate said we're doing Baldur's Gate 2, it's going to be more expensive, people would still support, and I think they'd be okay to do that because that company, well, first off, Baldur's Gate was Game of the Year, and two, that company is respectable, and people trust that company to provide a good quality product. I am okay to spend more money on something that is a quality product that is also improving itself. If you're making me pay more for less, I'm not okay with that. I'm a little bit more okay with a good company, but I'm going to start being pissed if the quality isn't matching the price point. But people are going to be more forgiving of good companies that make good product than they would on like Bungie or Ubisoft. Like, people are not going to give those companies a free pass because they have nothing to stand on. And that's reality.
About these price changes, when I see my YouTube comments or I see things that people say on Twitter, it's apathy more than anything else. They don't care. Okay, I wasn't going to buy it anyway. That's the attitude that I'm seeing. Yep. I mean, all of this price pressure that we're seeing right now is coming from AAA, which nobody's really buying right now.
No,
sure,
indies.
A couple of those games are doing well, but the vast majority of them are not. Why would I want to spend $80 to play Fable next year when I could use that money to buy 2 Expedition 33s?
I've not played it yet.
You know, the worst part is they need to charge a lot more than $80 because the EU is about to pull the rug right out from underneath these guys.
I can't wait.
You know what I find interesting? Players aren't yelling anymore. Not like they used to. We've been through the same outrage cycle so many times that the tone has shifted. When people are talking about $80 games or $700 consoles now, it's not anger, it's apathy. The reaction.
You have people like me that are more willing for good companies, whereas I'm against it as a whole because there's a lot of companies that they're doing it, but they're not giving you good quality. There's no premise for them to increase price because they're not providing good product or they're not upscaling the product quality to match the price point. And I won't be buying those games, right? But you have what we call shit eaters. People who are gamers, who are not pro gamer, they're pro shit eaters. They are pro stupid. And it is people like that that is ruining the game industry because they will eat shit and try to sell you and tell you it's a sundae. And all it is a pile of shit with some sprinkles on it. And that's the truth.
Action isn't don't do this to us. It's go ahead and destroy yourselves. I think that's where I am with a lot of this right now. I find their missteps to be more entertainment than their games are anymore. The bad games, the price hikes, the censorship, the controversy, sitting back and watching PlayStation continue to chase the live service ghost as Marathon and Arc Raiders drop their alpha tests right next to each other, and the contrast between the two couldn't be any more glaring. Marathon losing players every single day. Their alpha was out while Arc Raiders kept growing. One game feeling like it's going to be the next big thing.
I think that's a fair comparison to a certain extent.
Losing players every single.
So they were getting more and more people because they were letting more and more people in. I do think at a certain point, if they had opened the floodgates, there would be an increase, like probably around here. But I do believe there would absolutely be a decrease compared to Arc Raiders. Listen, we got to be fair where fair is needed. They were more, I think this was a lot more free for letting people join versus this where they're being more stingy. But out of 619 people who had access, they were not staying on for that time. Whereas you could see pretty consistently at least 20K was playing for multiple days. Like it was very rarely dipping to a point where it was like, okay, this is bad. This is pretty bad where only maybe 500 people to 1,000, maybe 1,000. Like it's pretty bad.
Single day, their alpha was out while Arc Raiders kept growing. One game feeling like it's going to be the next big thing and the other one feeling like a trend chaser that's trying to fit in with the cool kids. Again, another game being made by a studio with half of the amount of developers. The highest levels of this industry have become so disconnected and so corporatized that they are blind to what players want. They think that our complaints are nothing more than whining. They listen to their board of directors or their sensitivity training. They're more worried about their next earnings call than the customers. We've become the last thing on their minds. And when you ignore us, we start to ignore you. Your games, your platforms, eventually all of it becomes a symbol for everything that people don't want or want to support. So
I think that's huge. We should speak with our words and our money.
We start going somewhere else. And that's exactly what's happening right now. I mean, the three highest player rated games of this year so far are Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Fiction. All of them launched at $50 or less. Split Fiction just passed 4 million copies sold. Expedition 33 hit 2 million copies sold in 2 weeks.
That's
Games
crazy.
made with a fraction of the money in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the development.
Obscuro was made by like 30 devs. The main dude was a developer at Ubisoft who was bored, and he hired a bunch of people from Reddit.
Developers providing exponentially more creativity and enjoyment. These aren't flukes, these are signals, and they're being ignored. These publishers are still operating like it's 2016, thinking that a massive budget, cinematic trailers, and a big IP is enough to be able to capture everybody's attention. But markets have changed. Markets do change. Just look at the top games on Steam right now. Most of them are cheap, old, or indie. Outside of Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, these are old. Like this is relatively newish, but this is old. Marvel Rivals, probably one of the best examples of a free-to-play game popping the F off constantly. Then you have PUBG, which has been around for quite some time, which is actually kind of funny. Like, oh, that's right. I was about to say because of Fortnite, but Fortnite's not on Steam, so that makes sense. I was about to say, wait a minute, where's Fortnite? Apex Legends, okay, but this will always be an anomaly. I don't know why it has so many people. This game is a meme, and I think people keep it up in the background just for the meme. Baldur's Gate makes sense. Even all like this. How long has Baldur's Gate been out? And it is still one of the most played games. Same thing with Rust. And then you also have Elder Scrolls. Like, it's insane. You know what you don't see? You don't see Destiny.
Skate 3, it's almost impossible to find a full-priced game that has cracked the top 10 for longer than a week. That's why these price hikes just don't make any sense to me. A study last year showed that nearly 60% of all playtime was spent in games that are more than 6 years old. The only new titles that have seemed to be able to break through are either free-to-play, high-effort indie titles that are priced fairly, or massive AAA projects that actually deliver what players are looking for, like Monster Hunter Wilds, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Black Myth Wukong, or Space Marine 2. So while these companies keep tightening their grip, pushing subscription models, raising base prices, and padding every single experience with battle passes and microtransactions, they're missing the bigger picture. The model they're chasing is already collapsing.
Yep.
I mean, take a look at high-budget movies and streaming services right now. The same industries that these guys are trying to emulate are already burning out. Just last year, PC Magazine published a report showing that internet piracy is on the rise again, up 36% from 20.
I think I've seen, there has been this ongoing war, especially with like anime, where there's a bunch of pirated anime sites competing against like Crunchyroll. And it is going to be an interesting fight, because I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for these people to win, especially when you're increasing prices. You're seeing more increase of Netflix shows being pirated. Like, this system is, if you continue to disrespect your consumer, increase prices, especially with the fact that the cost of living is going up, the fact that people aren't getting pay raises, you do all that, people are going to go find the cheaper, easier solution, which usually means I'm going to set sail on the high seas, which is why you're seeing a high increase of that happening.
2020. Why? Because content is fragmented across multiple services, prices keep going up, and value keeps going down. Does that sound familiar to you guys at all? According to the study, piracy sites received 141 billion visits in the last year alone. That's more than the height of COVID lockdowns. The U.S. leads the charge in piracy traffic, and it's not just movies and television anymore, it's games too. Because if you lock all that content behind 6 different paywalls and continue to raise the...
I'm telling you, cost of living is going up, people's houses going up, gas, food, electric bills, just being able to survive. And yes, people want to have hobbies. Life sucks if you don't have a hobby. Like, sure, you're going to have great moments. Like, I love my job, but it's also stressful, and I need to be able to de-stress for my mental health. I play video games, right? Or I make videos. That helps me de-stress. It lets loose. But if your hobby becomes too expensive, you're going to try to find some way, especially if you love the hobby, you're going to find some way to still do it. And in this case, it's piracy for gamers.
Prices, while people don't get mad, they just find another way. So audiences today are either avoiding these products altogether, or they're subverting the system to be able to find them for cheap or for free, making all these high budget projects nearly impossible to find a profit in. But that's okay, right? Because, they still have all that microtransaction income to be able to fall back on. Well, I wouldn't be too sure of that. Over the last few months, the European Union has ramped up its efforts to clamp down on what they call predatory monetization practices in...
Listen, European Union, Nobo, on the European side of things, they suck when it comes to free speech. Absolutely a joke. But they absolutely make the United States look like a absolute clown when it comes to protecting its consumers. Like, EU is the hero of the gaming industry. We need them. We love them. And they're here to help us.
Gaming, all stemming from complaints about a mobile game called Star Stable Online, but it's quickly ballooned into something much bigger. The EU is now investigating the use of dark patterns, FOMO-driven events, psychological currency obfuscation, and the lack of return policies for in-game purchases. If these rules go into effect, and there is growing pressure to make this law, it won't just affect mobile games, it will impact everything.
Thank God.
And I can already hear the counter argument for this. They'll just make a different version of the game for other regions, but that's not going to happen. That's not how modern global releases work anymore.
No.
Look how every gacha game or every RPG now shows its drop rates and its gacha rates, and that's all based on a law from China. It tends to not really be worth the effort or the cost to manage different versions of the game. And plus, on top of that, their motivations to make a different version of the game would be so transparent that it would beg litigation. I'm telling you right now, if a return policy becomes mandatory in one region, it's going to be implemented everywhere.
Yep.
And that alone could shatter the very foundation of this entire microtransaction economy. Because these purchases are not made out of value, they are made out of impulse. They are emotional, compulsive, dopamine-driven decisions designed to wear off quickly. That's what they want them to do. And if you give people a few hours to reconsider and refund those purchases, the entire system collapses. And that's not hyperbole. Keep in mind, the biggest publishers in this industry, EA, Take-Two, Microsoft, Sony, Epic, they are all held up by this model. Anything
Bungie
that
does
could
it too.
disrupt the balance of it would threaten to break the entire thing. Right now, most of the industry's revenue isn't coming from...
Imagine what Bungie would be like if you could return cosmetics. Oh, baby.
From games, it's coming from that ecosystem. Epic has Fortnite, EA has FC, Apex Legends, and Madden. Microsoft has Call of Duty. Nintendo is pulling in billions from the Pokemon titles, and Sony, well, we already know they've been desperately trying to chase live service games for years, but this is the only path they have. This is their only path to growth. This is the only path that investors understand. And without them, they're nothing. In 2025 alone, Microsoft's content and services revenue went up by 8%, not because of great new games that they had released, but because of subscriptions and microtransactions. When they acquired Activision Blizzard in 2023, their overall gaming revenue jumped by 49%. Content and services, meaning reoccurring payments and microtransactions, grew by 61%, consuming the vast majority of their earnings. If the European Union cracks down on digital currencies and dark patterns, and other countries continue to regulate things like loot boxes and gambling and video games, it's not just going to be a bad quarter, it's going to be a market reset. And most of these companies have nothing of substance to be able to fall back on. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think one of the only reasons that we haven't seen any big moves towards regulation of microtransactions is because of the complete economic collapse that it would cause in the gaming industry. These guys have built their entire businesses around being able to psychologically manipulate their audience and extract as much reoccurring revenue as possible. And I
love when I criticize games or game companies. There's always pushback, but people say that I don't know what I'm talking about. I literally have a master's degree in psychology. If you understand the human mind, it is so easy to manipulate people. And people who defend these billion-dollar companies saying they would never do this, we can trust them. What? No, you just misheard them. That's not what they meant. No, they're the good guys. Bitch, they have literal human resources that their whole job is to manipulate consumers for sales and metrics. It is just insane that gamers are so mentally challenged to understand that psychology is one of the biggest backbones of business, because they want to understand the consumers and how can they wring as much cash out of their buttholes.
Done it while constantly scaling up their companies to absurd proportions, adding more developers, more marketing, and more money. And they've gotten used to this arrangement. The industry is wildly underregulated, which is exactly why it's grown so fast and attracted so much outside capital. But that gold rush is coming to an end, because if consumer protections start forcing these companies to act ethically or even transparently, the entire business model falls apart. And of course, things are only getting worse for these guys, because add to the fact that one of their hidden revenue streams just got
Guys, that means we're going to get less games. They're not going to make games as much anymore. Who cares? It's not like we have years of back catalogs you can't play, you dumbass. I'd rather have them release games slower but better quality than faster and shitty quality.
Raveled, Ubisoft is currently under legal fire for allegedly harvesting behavioral data through their online-only single-player games and likely their multiplayer games as well. That's why these guys wanted us to be online all the time. Data that they can analyze, sell, and use to manipulate the players, all without ever asking for permission. This is what the modern gaming industry is built on right now. Addiction loops, monetization funnels, data mining, and psychological manipulation that's disguised as entertainment. And now that that's all starting to collapse under regulatory pressure, under consumer fatigue, under the weight of a leaner, smarter, and more successful indie scene, these guys
Yep.
are panicking. They're raising their prices. They're pushing subscriptions even harder. They're throttling features and slapping paywalls on content that used to be free. I mean, it's now rumored that Call of Duty is going to start to paywall their events and gameplay modes.
That's
I'm telling
crazy.
you right now, this isn't going to work because the players that used to be there aren't going to be fooled anymore. And the ones that do care have already walked away. And the ones that are still there aren't going to be enough. I think I might have brought this up before, but they keep trying to treat this industry like it's every other industry, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of these CEOs are coming from other places than gaming.
Yep.
But it's just not how this beast is built. It's just not how it works. It's the psychology of the whole thing. It's how people.
So here's the thing. There's a lot of shit eaters out there. And unlike Netflix, where people, beat their chest saying, we can't share passwords and play. Well, I'm not going to use Netflix. Well, there's not much else to go to. Whereas in gaming, we can beat our chest, and there's a plethora of other options, including the high seas, in which case that is the option that's probably going to be used the most. But gaming is a different beast. You can't treat people like that people treat it, like Netflix treated their audience and their consumers. It's just not a one for one. It's not the same. And they're going to learn the hard way.
People interact with these products. We don't even think of them as products. We think of them as games. We think of them as experiences. We think of them as worlds that we're visiting, as memories that we are having, as memories that we are sharing, ones that we plan on returning to or may return to in the future or whatever it might be. And
I have to note, he said we don't treat them like a product. I do. I mean, it's a game, it's a hobby, obviously, but I also look at the product, the value proposition that the product itself is providing. But in most cases, I get lost in the sauce. I'm not thinking, I'm playing a product, I'm playing a game. That's 100% true. But when you look at the bigger picture, I absolutely do take time to look at like the product.
we play these games. We don't consume them. And that's a completely different interaction than you see in a lot of other industries. And I think that they've lost touch with that.
It's not like you
and
binge watch.
It's more evident by the day, to be honest with you. They left the players behind. They've been making worse games. They've been trying to monetize them even further. And even if they can make a good game, it's likely too expensive for us to buy, or it's too expensive for them to make. I mean, look at how high these guys have risen the stakes for themselves. Grand Theft Auto 6 is estimated to be $2 billion in development costs. That is insane. You cannot keep up with that. You can't even compete with that. Effectively, to just make what the AAA industry is supposed to be making.
They're trying to make Grand Theft Auto 6 the last game in the world. It's going to last the next 20 years. They are going to milk that game for the next 20 years.
In the first place, they have to sell like 30 plus million copies to be able to break even after fees and things like that on other platforms.
They will. Don't worry. They'll break even.
They can pull that off, but the vast majority of the industry doesn't stand a chance. Are you kidding me?
Maybe Fortnite. I don't know.
But these are the costs that continue to rise. They keep doing this to themselves. They keep scaling up and scaling out, and they use subscription services and microtransactions to be able to offset that growth and show that perpetual record-breaking growth that they need to show to their shareholders, because most of these CEOs are paid in stock options to begin with that never take pay cuts, by the way, regardless of how many people they lay off or how bad their business does. Notice most of these gaming CEOs never lose their job.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
You know, and with the subscription services, I think it's going to be around. I think it's going to stick around, but I don't think it's ever going to be as popular as these companies are hoping it's going to be. They want it to be because it's the best and the most control that they'll ever be.
I think subscription services work better for movies because most people don't rewatch the same thing. Most, not all, rewatch it more than a couple times. But people are willing, if it's a good game, they will replay it multiple times on different difficulties to collect everything, or they'll mod it on PC. Like, it is more likely that someone will replay a game than rewatch an entire movie. More likely. I'm not generalizing everyone. I said it's just more likely in most cases.
Be able to have over their consumer base, but I just think that people want to have their library. I think they want to have their games that they can go back to. I think they like buying things when they're on sale. People like feeling like they're getting a deal on something.
Hell yeah, Steam's great.
And people just want their games. Physical copies of games still sell. Expedition 33's physical copies sold out in multiple countries.
Yep.
And with microtransactions, that entire ecosystem is built on psychology, manipulation. They have to manipulate the player to be able to get that money. And if that is disrupted in any way, if there is legislation against it that gets rid of dark patterns or gets rid of anything, these guys are cooked. They won't stand a chance. You will see companies that you never thought would go out of business overnight. Honestly, I can't wait to watch it all backfire. It has been so much fun to sit back and watch as these indie companies have just been running circles around these guys lately. It has been crazy. The amount of just random out of nowhere developers making tons of money, making games that are incredibly popular and absolutely beloved. It has just been so much fun. And keep in mind, for every copy of Expedition 33 that sells, that's one less copy of Assassin's Creed that gets sold. These companies do directly compete.
We don't want to talk about Assassin's Creed, how they don't even want to mention the sales of that game.
With their games, even though they don't like to compete on their prices in a lot of cases, at least not on the AAA side. But that's how this whole thing works. So, they hate to see it. They'll act like they're happy to see these guys do well. I was talking to an indie developer the other day, and he had said that because of the direction that the industry is headed in, it has created so many opportunities for these guys to make money, and they are so happy that these guys keep selling.
It's got to feel really good as an indie developer, especially when you have Expedition, Power World, all these indie games being successful. And you've just got to know that these big wigs are freaking pissed. They're like, they spent what? And they're making more than us? What? 30 dudes, some of them from Reddit, and a guy from Ubisoft just made this game that's kicking our Assassin's Creed's ass? What the hell?
Self-sabotaging themselves. He's like, it has never been better to be an indie dev.
Oh, yeah.
I told him, you guys are making it where it's never been better to be a gamer. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Like I said, the link will be down below on the video. Hit the like button and subscribe to his channel. Great video. Absolutely. Like I said a lot of things, and then he came right behind it and said exactly what I said. And so it's nice to see like-minded, logical human beings talk about video games in a scope that isn't, upchucking $1 billion cock and balls in your mouth. Like, it is so nice to hear someone who's actually logical about it. It's nice. So please subscribe to the channel if you want some logical takes from a gamer who isn't being paid to be a shill. I appreciate you guys. Hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more. As always, game